Welcome to this behind the scenes episode. It's a little bit niche, and really, unless you're a filmmaker or you're interested in how we make films, this may not be for you. But I wanted, after putting this episode out, to show you what we do and how we get the content to you. This is really because our patrons facilitate this. We would be unable to put the time and effort into filmmaking without your support. So thank you to our patrons. We really do appreciate it, and we hope that you can see the results of our labor. And so today we are just going to show you the first 30 seconds of our latest episode and show you how we get from the raw footage to where we are at the end. Our light travel gear now includes a Sony Alpha series interchangeable Tamron lenses, gimbals, drones, small handheld cameras, and things like GoPros, as well as adapters, hard disks, and laptops. All in all, most of our luggage is now taken up with camera gear. So this is the first 30 seconds of our intro. It is completely raw footage, completely unedited. As you can see, the colors are very different, but there are other subtle things that you may notice, you may not notice. Firstly, the size of the aspect ratio, completely different. We don't have this. This is filmed in 16:9. There's also a lot of movement and a lot of shake in the shots. This is caused by a couple of different things. Firstly, it is just a natural muscle shake, which is partially compensated for by the stabilization in the camera, but also the boat is moving. Also, this shot of Teresa just has her making coffee. There is a speed ramp on it to speed it up and slow it down, but it's not particularly impressive. So with this first shot, to try and increase the stability and the smoothness of the shot, we have some third-party software which stabilizes footage. Now this again is pretty sped up. The stabilization takes a pretty time to render. So between finding a shot and stabilizing it, what we need to really do is pick a point on that image or on that little bit of video and try and keep it in the center of the shot so that it doesn't move around. So in this case, we picked a point on this mountain, rendered it all. The rendering takes with this laptop about a minute or so. So when you then play it back and apply it, nothing moves. And this is so important for when you're taking shots on boats, or for that reason cars or anything else. So for that point of view, we have to stabilize every shot. If we have 60 shots, they've all got to be stabilized. Same as the shot with the bird, it is all stabilized so that you get a smoother, better shot. Again, something which does add probably about an hour or two of editing to a 15-minute video. So that is where we are with that. So every shot initially stabilized just to get a smooth viewing experience. Next, we wanted to add a little bit of motion blur to Teresa here. It gives the impression of tails, and it kind of is a nice visual effect. Again, I'm giving you the real sped up version of this, and getting these shots right so that it looks right and doesn't have too much echo is actually quite tricksy. So a little bit of motion blur with Teresa, and we've kind of got ourselves to a position where we now have a stabilized shot, something that I'm happy with the way the movement goes on the screen, and we've got that nice little effect at about 30 seconds where Teresa then has these trails as she's making coffee. Okay, we then need to work with aspect ratio. We work with a letterbox ratio of 1.85 to 1 to give the effect a slightly more cinematic look. It also works better on slightly widescreen TVs. So this one's a simple little addition, little letterbox within Final Cut, and we get something which looks far better for us. So we're pretty happy with that. And so next on our list of things to do is to add a soundtrack. Now we use a couple of different paid music services to get music and soundtracks for our videos. For me, this is actually really an enjoyable process, and I can happily get lost for hours just trying to select music. But once that music is imported into a timeline, it has to be cut so that the shot transitions correspond with the beat. This sometimes is actually really difficult, and we found out the hard way you cannot use wireless headphones for this, or you end up with a latency which then when you actually listen to it on a television or with wired headphones doesn't correspond to the beat. So again, music comes next. The next stage is one that actually takes a whole lot of time, and that is base correction, shot matching, and then the grading of the footage. Now, because we take footage on the same camera but in different light conditions or with different cameras, every shot has to be matched so that they all look the same. So we use some pretty high-end color grading shot software to make sure that the contrast, the luminosity, the chroma, and the saturation for each shot looks right. We then need to make sure that all the shots look the same. So if you shoot, say for instance, one shot at dusk and one at midday, or you use a DJI camera for one and a Canon for another, that everything looks the same. So we do then need to go through every shot taken within a video and make sure that they all look identical. We don't actually now rely on the actual look of the shot. We use Chroma Scopes and spectrums for this. Once we've got the individual shots matched, we then need to go and make sure that everything tallies up. So what we do is take all the shots and match them together. Next in our video intro is the addition of titles. This is actually fairly simple. We use different titles and different title packs, but again, I'm a little bit of a font nerd. Is it? Yes, I almost got that wrong. So yeah, I'm a bit of a font nerd. So just looking at the fonts, how those cut in and cut out is really important to us. So again, getting a slow and cinematic title sequence is the next stage, but this one's a pretty simple one. Right, so we've got this sequence and this is ungraded, but as you can see, there's a shot of the dawn here. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, look away if you don't want to hear this. This is added in post just to give the effect. So we use a daybreak effect just to add light to this shot. Now, one thing I would say is that it's not just a question of putting the light in, because the shot moves around, every frame has to be tracked. So if you put a light source into, say for instance, in this case, between these two mountains, that then has to be tracked. So we need to use tracking software to show that as the scene moves, even if it just moves a little bit, that the light isn't seen to bounce around. So again, this is done in post-production just to give that little bit of a visual effect. Are we giving away our secrets? Yes. Does it spoil it for you? We hope not. It's again just the overall image and the overall, you know, the evoking of emotion that we're trying to create here. So again, a little bit of light in post. Now, one of the final things we do once we've got our shot graded, matched, and we have got the music, everything laid out, and we're pretty happy with it, we then move on to final grading, the use of LUTs. For those of you who don't know, LUTs it stands for Lookup Table, and it really means applying a particular look to a film or a shot. Now, in this case, we wanted to evoke something which is a little bit kind of Asian, a lot of greens and a lot of blues into this. So we use, in this case, we use a Lookup Table, which is what we call Rec 709. Now, what that means is you can take a shot and apply just really a filter to it. So this filter, in this case, there are 3 different filters that we could use. One puts yellows in, one puts a little bit of orange in. This one uses lots of greens. So by taking the original footage, overlaying what essentially is a set of filters, we can then create a look that we're pretty happy with. So what I've done here is just outline the main steps of what we've done. There are probably at least the same number of minor steps, such as speeding up and slowing down the footage, just small corrections to the actual, you know, the rotation in case the horizon isn't complete. But again, I just wanted to show you, because a lot of people expressed some interest in this, how we go from taking raw footage, how we take our raw footage and then get a final product out of it. It is pretty labor intensive, and really at the moment it takes us between an hour and 90 minutes to create 1 minute of footage to bring out to you. And as we've said before, this just would not be possible without the help of you patrons. So thank you everyone, you are all fantastic, and I hope that this is a little bit of interest for those of you who are interested in how we put films together. See you again soon. Goodbye.